Conspiracy time. Okay, so the JFK documents were released, but not to the public. They have to still redact a lot of things from these documents before they can release them to the public. Instead of 3,800 documents being released, they only released 2,900, which is quite a significant amount from the original number that they originally said. I don't think we're going to find anything out about any of these, especially after they're redacted. However, I did notice some numerology in all of this, which I think is always important in these events, is always something you have to pay attention to and recognize, because it is significant stuff whether we realize what it means or not. There is meaning behind it that they understand that we just don't. So originally they said 3,800 documents, and that was 11% of the total that they still have. You get rid of the zeros in numerology, just to explain that a little bit. Zeros do not exist. Okay, so 3,800, 3 and 8 equals 11, and it was 11%, so that's 22. Well then, now they came out with 2,900. Get rid of the zeros, 2 and 9 is 11. So we have 11 times 3, which is 33. And if we get rid of the 11% and just stick with the numbers of documents, we have 22. 11, 22, and 33, we have all three of our master numbers there. Master numbers are what make up the human structure. This is very important to Kabbalism and the study of the Kabbalah, the human structure, the endocrine system, and the workings of the spirit through the tree of life. 11 represents the amount of ribs we have on each side. 11 ribs on each side, which is 22 total. We have 22 bones in the skull that make up the human skull, and we have 33 vertebrae that make up the spine. And that is the structure of those master numbers, and that's the importance of those. I thought that was really interesting. And then they're not going to be releasing these documents for another 180 days to the public. 180 days? How many days in a month? 30. 180 divided by 30. Or let's eliminate those zeros. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 666. Again, this stuff is not on accident. These numbers are chosen very carefully. Just like the Vegas shooting, the numbers were changing constantly throughout that whole false flag event. And when I say false flag, this doesn't mean people did not actually die. This doesn't mean that this whole thing was a sham. It does not mean that. However, there are a lot of crisis actors, people being hired to play certain roles, speaking roles, to carry this narrative forward, right? The numbers that they finally settled on were 527 injured and 59 dead. Let's add that up. 5 and 2 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. 5 and 9 equals 14. We have 7, 7, 7, 7. 7 to the power of 4. That's a huge and powerful number in numerology and in witchcraft. If you look at Aleister Crowley's Liber 777, you'll understand what I'm talking about with all of this, and understand that they use these things to maintain their control over us. And especially when they throw it in our face like this and we don't understand it, it has even more power for them. Because it represents a certain model that they understand we don't get it. And they can keep up the scam because we just don't understand. And if we don't even understand these numbers, well then, gosh, what else could they get away with? It's very significant for them to see what we do understand and what we don't, so that they can continue to change their system to maintain their power. When this stuff comes out, when these documents will be released to the public, we're looking, again, 6 months down the road. We're going to be knee-deep in playoffs, basketball playoffs, March Madness. We'll be fresh out of the Super Bowl. We're going to be so distracted with balls in our face, literally, that I don't think any of this stuff is going to have any relevance on our life at that point. And again, the information that's going to come out of it being so heavily redacted, I don't think we're going to discover anything new that hasn't been discovered before by the tons of researchers who have put in hours and hours and years of their time in uncovering the JFK assassination from the moment he was assassinated till current day. So I think it's a whole distraction, just something to keep us busy so that they can continue what they're doing in the meantime. Especially because in the mainstream media now you have the Hillary Uranium-1 deal coming back up, resurfacing, and the Obama administration in collusion with the Russian government, which is, again, we knew all this stuff before, but because it's in the media now, it could be a little more significant. Is anything going to happen to these people? No, I don't think so. They're all lawyers. They know what to do. They know how to manipulate the system because they created it. Okay? So I don't think anything is going to happen to them through the system. So I wouldn't expect any major repercussions for them. But it is funny. Every time I think about the Super Bowl, it does remind me of the movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise and how they predicted the 2017 Super Bowl being the last one. And he's met by the destroyer drone. And the number is 166 on that drone, which adds up to 13, which is the 13th missing month in the zodiac, which represents the Christ. He is the 13th among the 12 disciples, the 12 moons, months. He is the Son of God. He is the destroyer. He is the great cataclysm. He is Dionysus, right? I always, like I said, again, what significance does this stuff have? Is 2017 going to be the last? I don't know. Will we have a 2018 Super Bowl? I'm sure we will. I'm not predicting anything. But nonetheless, it's interesting stuff, and like I said, nothing to take lightly. Meanwhile, there is a huge military drill that's going to be taking place in Doswell, Virginia, about 20 miles north of Richmond. And they're said to be simulating a national response to an act of terror or a live shooter event, as well as a weapon of mass destruction. This is supposed to be a pretty big event over there. And local residents have been advised that there will be gunfire. There will be helicopters flying overhead and aircrafts. So don't be alarmed because this will be taking place and it is a coordinated military exercise. So it's kind of scary that they're doing these things, especially at a national amusement park. It does raise some flags. However, this is an annual event and they do change the location of this every year. So they just chose this location. But it does ring bells of Jade Helm 16 and what they were doing with that program in mastering the human domain, predicting our outcomes. What will we do if this happens? If they try to wrangle us up, what will we say? Where will we go? And this is the information that they're gathering from our phones. Where do we go? Do we go straight to work from home? Do we go just from home to work and the grocery store and then we're back home? Is that what are our coordinated movements? And that's why they're creating these megacities, store systems at the bottom of these stacked condos and apartments. They're insinuating to us, hey, you don't need to go anywhere. Okay, you have everything here that you need. You have food. You have entertainment. You have a nice place to live. You don't even need a car. Just ride your bike. I mean, we already have the death of the carbon engine coming really soon here. 2025, I think they said, is going to be the date on that. Getting rid of carbon-fueled engines. It was one of the Rothschild daughters. I think she tweeted something like this, and it was even in The Economist. We all know that by 2030, a lot of this stuff is going to change. And that's really quick in the large scheme of things. 2030, that's right around the corner, 13 years. Whew. Things are changing rapidly, and we need to be aware of what's going on. And who's involved. Facebook, Google, Google was helping with Jade Helm, and they're helping with the whole predictability program. It's Minority Report to the nth degree. It's pre-crime. What will you do? Well, you have the potential to commit a crime, so we're just going to go ahead and lock you up. Well, that's not just. Didn't George Washington say it's an unwise and unjust jealousy to deprive a man of his natural liberties based off the supposition that he may abuse them? I think I kind of prefer that whole idea, free will. Not this whole equality thing. One thing I noticed in the NFL, this whole push for equality, they were wearing shirts. The Indianapolis Colts I saw were wearing shirts saying, "We stand for ... And on the back of the shirt, equality, justice, unity, respect, dialogue, opportunity." I was like, man, that's great. That's beautiful. But where is freedom and liberty on that shirt? Don't you guys want that? You don't want your freedom? You don't want to be able to think for yourself? Oh, well, that's your prerogative, I guess. I choose the latter. I want my freedom over equality. Milton Friedman, a famed economist, he said, if we choose equality over freedom, then you'll get neither freedom nor equality. If you choose freedom over equality, then you'll get a high degree of both. And I agree with him in that, because everybody being equal, it creates a unity, sure, yeah. But that word, uni, it means one, okay. Universal, unique. We're no longer individual. We don't have individual minds anymore. It's groupthink. We have to think as a group. You cannot disagree from that group. You cannot have a different opinion from other people. And I think this stuff is really scary, and it's going on. And it's happening, like I said, at a really rapid rate. The more I study history, the more I see why the older generations are so freaked out by all this, because 60, 70 years ago, it wasn't this bad. And the things that are happening, it's just, like I said, at a really rapid rate. I also take a look at the propaganda being pushed out by Hollywood. I mean, the war movies are coming out just in droves. It's hard for me to keep up with it. I mean, these things come, Hacksaw Ridge, Dunkirk, Thank You for Your Service, Forbidden Ground, Megan Levy. These movies, you had American Sniper. There's too many. We're 3 minutes to midnight on our doomsday clock. Thor Ragnarok, the end of days in Norse mythology. Norse mythology, that was what Hitler was going after, to reinvoke and resurrect Wotan, who is Odin, Wotan. And he discovered this in Antarctica, which we could go into a flat earth discussion on this whole thing, but I think we would get into a completely different episode. Scary times. It's scary times, but really you shouldn't be scared if you are prepared spiritually. I think that's the most important thing. Also, creating community around you. Be nice to people. Knock on your neighbor's doors. Introduce yourself. Ask if they need anything. The moment we start doing for others instead of doing for ourselves, I think we're going to find a lot of satisfaction in that, first of all, being altruistic. And secondly, it will create a community to where you have the same mind of the ideas of, again, freedom. And I think, we'll see a lot of benefit from that, and it'll eliminate a lot of the fear that's being created right now for us, even with North Korea and potential strikes and everything like that, which they would never do because they know that they would be, wiped off the face of the earth if they did anything like that to USA. But I think that's all I have to say on this episode. Take care of yourselves. Keep your heads up. And stay free, people!